When we think of technology, we think of the future. Very few of us remember the solid, reliable tech of the past. But we are on a trip to do just that today. And not something that has wheels, but this time with wings. Why Autocar? Well, the DC-3 is to aviation what Jeep is to automobiles. And since I am a great fan of all things that fly, I couldn't resist the trip to Nagpur, where the DC-3, which is currently on a world tour, was making a stop. So as you can see, this particular example of the DC-3 has two doors on the right side, and there is no door on the other side except for the tiny emergency exit. The big door here is used by the passengers to enter and exit the aircraft, while the small door back here is used for the cargo hold. This aircraft was originally produced for civilian use, but its robustness and versatility led it to be used as a military model too. Such was its popularity that they say that during World War II, one plane was produced every single hour. So this particular aircraft is powered by the same propellers that it came out from the factory way back in 1940. Now, when newer planes sit horizontal to the ground, this plane sits leaning back on its third wheel with its nose up in the air. But with a 10-minute idling time, one had to be seated in the hot cabin sans AC for a while before actually taking to the air. In 2008, Breitling joined hands with a group of enthusiasts to restore this Douglas DC-3. Aviation enthusiast and bush pilot Francisco Aguilo bought it and flew it to Opaloka Airport in Florida, where the DC-3 received its major overhaul.
The basics of flying are the same for any aircraft, but there's a big difference between this vintage aircraft and a modern airplane like an Airbus 320 that we see outside, where computers are just managing the flight systems for the pilot, and the pilot is just monitoring and managing the aircraft. Where with this aircraft, the pilot really has to fly the airplane with all his senses, and that's where the big difference is. And also the forces that we have to apply to the flight controls in this aircraft are quite different than an Airbus. On an Airbus aircraft, for example, it's just inputs, it's electrical inputs, no forces there from the pilot point of view. But here it's like driving an old truck or an old car. You know, there's no power steering, there's nothing.
Absolutely.
So we have to use our muscles to fly the aircraft.
Though the restoration had made the cabin look spanking new, there were telltale signs of its age, like the squared out wooden windows, the narrow seats, and the fact that there was no cabin storage above. You and your team have done quite a nice job in restoring the aircraft that we can see. It's in top nick right now, and it took quite a long time, about a year or maybe more than a year, for you guys to restore it. Which was the most toughest part, in the whole process of restoration?
Yes, we have put a lot of efforts and passion in this airplane, as you can see. We have a non-profit organization with 3,500 members, so everybody participates and helps in any way they can. Some financially, some support with their time, some are mechanics, and so on and so on. What required the most time in our airplane was the cabin work, because we tried to upgrade it to today's standards. And something that requires a lot of attention, but that's all year round, it's the engines. The engines are original engines from the 40s, so they require a lot of maintenance and attention.
It was also slightly reconfigured for the world tour, which means the seats at the center of the fuselage were removed to accommodate auxiliary tanks connected directly to the main fuel tank, helping the aircraft fly longer without too many fuel stops. But the journey itself also let us know more. Let's not forget, this is an old plane. For sure, along with the turbulence, the ride is quite rough too. The DC-3 is a pioneer in the history of global aviation, be it civil or military. Breitling, who supplied gauges for the DC-3 and whose nav timer also dates back to the 1940s, was happy to be associated with this restoration and the flight around the world. When it finishes circumnavigating the globe, this DC-3 would be the oldest aircraft in the world to have done so. The tour aims to raise money for UNICEF. Breitling will donate $2 for every nautical mile the aircraft flies for the children affected by the Japan earthquake. And as a part of the initiative, The DC-3 is carrying 500 limited edition Breitling Navtimer DC-3 watches for sale that come with detailed flight log, personally signed by the crew. We wish them the best in the journey ahead.